And the NASA TLX consists of like 6 subscales that represent somewhat, independent variables, which is our like mental, physical, temporal demands, frustration, efforts, and performance. So in order to effectively assess the mental workload for the task, we have to measure the various components of the task and of the individual performing the task. So it is important to consider the subjective importance as a source of loading for the task, the type of task and its magnitude in a particular example of the task. So the sort of 6 subscales take into account sensitivity to difference between tasks, and sensitivity to experimental manipulation within tasks and association with subjective rating of overall like workload and also the independence from other factors and subjective importance to the raters. So next, I'm gonna dive into the details of the 6 subscales. But before that, I'm gonna walk you through the concept of mental workload. So what is it? I would say mental workload refers to the cognitive and perceptual demands imposed on an individual's mental resources during the performance of a task. So it is a sort of multidimensional concept that encompass the mental efforts, attentions, and cognitive resources required to complete a task successfully. So mental workload is often used to describe the subjective experience of the cognitive demands placed on an individual. Also, assessing the mental workload is essential in a variety of fields, including human factors research, aviation, healthcare, and other sort of industry where individuals engage in tasks that require sustained like attention and decision making and the information processing. I would say understanding the mental workload can help optimize task design, improve the performance, and also like enhance the overall well-being, by in a means that ensure that the cognitive demands placed on individuals are appropriate for the task at hand. You know what? Various methods, including the subjective rating scales like, NASA TLX, that being said, the NASA text load index, physiological measures and performance metrics, can be used to quantify it and evaluate the mental workload in different contexts. So, but for this class, we're gonna only focus on the NASA, text load index. So let me give you an example. Um, you know, for like walk you through the 6 subscales. Imagine that you have a really cool, spaceship, and you are responsible for, flying it through the space. And the NASA wants to figure out how hard this task is for you, mentally. So they use something called NASA TLX, which is like a way of measuring how much your brain has to work while flying to the spaceship. So the first one is mental demand. This is about how much you have to think and use your brains. If flying the spaceship requires a lot of concentration and mental efforts, the mental demand is high. And another example is that, if you need to constantly monitor different instruments, calculate the trajectories, and make quick decisions while, flying the spaceship, I would say the mental demand will be high. And the next one is physical demand. So this is about how much your body has to work. So also the same example, if flying the spaceship is physically tiring, I would say the physical demand is high. So, and also if you have to control the spaceship manually and press a lot of buttons and use, physical strength to navigate through the space, the physical demand will also be high. And next, temporal demands. This is about how much time pressure you feel. So if you have to, do things really quickly, so that, you can say that the temporal demand for this task is really high. And if you need to like complete, certain tasks or make decisions within the, very strict time limits, like avoiding like obstacles or responding to emergence, the temporal demands will be high as well. Also performance. This is about how well you think you are doing. Okay. So if you feel like you are doing a great job, the performance is high, let's also think about the same example of, controlling a spaceship. So if you successfully navigate the spaceship, like avoid the obstacles and follow the mission objectives, I would say your performance will be high as well. And efforts. This is about how hard you feel you are working. So if you are putting in a lot of effort, the effort is high. Same example, if you need to focus intensively and make constant adjustment and stay alert during the entire flight, your effort will be high as well. And the last one, frustration levels. This is about how annoyed or stressed you feel. So, if things get on your nerves while flying the spaceships, I would say the frustration levels are high. And if there's some sort of, technical glitches, unexpected challenges or difficulties in controlling the spaceship that make you feel frustrated, we can say that the frustration level will be high. So all of these, subscales are like, subjective. So in summary, so the NASA TLX is like a report card that can help, in this example, then help NASA understand how hard and stressful it is for you to fly the spaceship. So by looking at these 6 factors, they can sort of figure out, if the task is too demanding or if the things need to be adjusted to make it easier for you. But, this is just the example, of NASA, but this could be like applied to other, fields like human factor research, healthcare, etc. Yeah. And next, I'm gonna cover the validity, reliability, and usability of the NASA TLX. So, before discussing the usefulness of NASA TLX, it's oh, two people enter the waiting room. Wait a second. So it's really crucial to understand the validity in this context. So validity basically refers to whether the NASA TLX is actually measuring what it is supposed to measure. So in this case, whether it like accurately measure the mental workload. So validity can be like basically compromised by the different definition the individual assigned to the mental workload, given the great variation in how people perceive factors, such as the physical task demands and the frustration levels and the efforts involved. So as workload is subjective, NASA TLX must consider various sources of loading and their effects on each individual, encompassing a wide range of sources, while remaining specific and relevant to the task of interest. And the 6 subscales of the NASA TLX, counteract the variability in subjective rating, covering a broad spectrum of factors, contributing to the workload. So this can make the NASA TLX easier to understand and complete. In addition, distorted rating can help, pinpoint the source of the task or like the performance problems, demonstrating the continuing value of the scale. And the validity of the NASA TLX, must be reassessed when applied to another language. And fortunately, translation into like over a dozen languages, including like French, German, Japanese, etc., have maintained the validity across different cultures. And next, I'm going to introduce the reliability of the NASA TLX. So reliability refers to the like consistency in a set of measurements. That being said, whether the NASA TLX will produce the same results if complete several times by the same individual in the same situation. So, the reliability of the NASA TLX has been proven multiple times, making it like applicable to a vast number of work situations for like effective mental workload measurement. And I would say the NASA TLX is reliable when administer in any methods, verbally, by pen and paper or on a computer. So to ensure the high reliability, it is really essential to minimize the source of error throughout the administration. And currency, two methods exist to compute the overall mental workload. So, which is like the two-step process, involving 6 initial items followed by the 16 pairwise comparison. And another one is the like one-step process, which involves only the 6 initial items. I would say the one-step process is less time-consuming and more. Not the students join. Well, I would say the one-step process is less time-consuming and more convenient and has a higher reliability than the two-step process. And next, I'm gonna elaborate on the two methods to compute the overall mental workload. So regarding the two-step process, participants initially rate their experience based on the 6 dimensions or subscales, covering factors like the mental demands, physical demands, temporal demands, frustration, efforts, and performance. And following the initial rating, the sort of participants are then presented with a pairwise comparison of the 6 dimensions. They are typically asked to compare each dimension against every other dimensions, indicating which one was more dominant in influencing their workload. So this sort of process could result in 16 comparisons. So the two-step process basically aims to capture a more nuanced understanding of the relative importance of each dimension in terms of influencing the mental workload. However, I would say the increased number of comparisons could potentially introduce complexities and may require more time and efforts from the participants. As for the one-step process, similar to the two-step process, the participant typically start by providing a rating on the 6 dimensions of the mental workload. And the one-step process simplifies the computation of overall mental workload by omitting the pairwise comparison step. Instead, it basically relies solely on the initial 6 rating provided by the participants. And let's talk about the difference between such two methods. So the two-step process, as I say, involves additional pairwise comparison. So this can make it a sort of more time-consuming approach. This means that participants need to carefully evaluate and compare each dimension against the others, which can extend the assessment durations. And in terms of convenience, on the other hand, the one-step process streamlines the assessments, making it less demanding in terms of time and cognitive efforts. Participants only need to provide rating for the initial 6 dimensions or subscales, without engaging in extensive pairwise comparisons. In terms of the reliability, despite its simplicity, the one-step process has been found to have higher reliability than the two-step process. This means that one-step approach could consistently produce more stable and dependable results across the repeated measurements. So in summary, the choice between the two methods basically depends on the specific goals of the assessments and also the available times and the desired level of detail of your study. While the two-step process offered a more intricate analysis, of dimensional importance, the one-step process is favored for its efficiency and higher reliability in measuring the overall mental workload of your participants. And next, I'm gonna briefly introduce the usability of the NASA TLX. So several features of the NASA TLX ensure it is easy to use for both administrators and the individual that finishing the assessment. So when it comes to being compared to other subjective workload measures, the NASA TLX has been shown to be preferable for participants, and is sort of popular among the researchers due to its ease of implementation. And next, I'm gonna briefly walk you through, the basic 8 steps of measuring the when measuring the mental workload using the NASA TLX. So here's the the worksheets. So the the NASA the test low index scoring worksheet is a tool which is used to compute the overall workload score based on participants' rating in various workload dimensions. So typically the first step is to collect the data. So we typically have participants to complete the NASA TLX questionnaire, like this one. Yeah, so so where they rate their perceived workload on 6 dimensions, like the mental demand, physical demands, temporal demands, performance, efforts, and the frustration level. And then we we gather the individual ratings provided by each participant for each of the 6 workload dimensions. And then for each dimensions, participants rate their perceived workload on a scale, from maybe 0 to 100. These ratings are usually provided on a paper or electronic version of the NASA TLX questionnaire. And next, we're gonna calculate the weighting, the weighting factors. So basically, the NASA TLX uses a weighting system to account for the variation in the importance of each dimensions. So participants rank the dimensions based on their perceived contribution to the overall workload, assigning the weight factors from 1 to 5, with 1 being the least important and typically 5 being the most important. And then we calculate the weighted scores by multiplying each dimension's rating by its corresponding weight factors. So this results in the weight score for each dimensions. And next, we sum up the weight score across 6 dimensions to obtain the total weight workload score. And next, we normalize the score, by dividing it by the sum of the weight factors. The steps could ensure that the overall score is on a scale from 0 to 100. And lastly, we have to interpret the results. So the final normalized score represent the participants' overall perceived workload. That being said, the higher score indicates the higher perceived workload, while, on the contrary, the lower score indicate lower perceived workload. And lastly, I'm gonna play a video to show how the NASA TLX can be used to the research, like typically, the HCI research. It's a presentation of a research paper that was published at the,
Welcome to this video presentation.
Computer
My name
Science
is Nasser
Education
Almadi,
Conference.
and today I'm presenting a paper co-authored with my students, Ricky Ping and Tamsin Rogers. The paper is titled Assessing Workload Perception in Introductory Computer Science Projects Using NASA TLX. This paper is motivated by previous research, which found a uniform pass rate of 67.7% in introductory computer science courses based on data from 15 countries and 161 courses. Despite the numerous modifications to computer science curricula that aim to address the issue of student success, CS courses in general and introductory courses in particular remain characterized by difficulty. Programming projects are the center of introductory courses, and students' programming experience was found to be a strong predictor of student performance and success. The difficulty of programming assignments was found to have negative implications on diversity and equity within the CS discipline. In introductory computer science courses in particular, a number of factors come together to disadvantage women and students from minorities. These factors stand in the way of attracting and retaining a diverse group of students. The problem of difficulty in programming projects has significant implications on self-efficacy perception despite success.
Professor, some of us can't hear the video anymore.
Is to predict student
They'll hear you
success
now.
during the course instead of
Yes, thank you.
history.
Nice.
In summary, the first theme highlights the importance of identifying students who experience difficulty in introductory computer science projects and courses. This identification allows educators to intervene in a timely manner to ensure student success. The second theme focused on the emotional assessment of student experience in introductory computer science courses and projects. Two papers focused on the emotional reaction to programming assignments, and one of them found that programming assignments can catch novice students completely off guard with difficulty. In fact, the paper found that some students perceived their efficacy negatively despite having a positive programming experience. Self-efficacy is an important concept that describes how students are more likely to attempt actions that they perceive to be within their capabilities. In summary, the second theme suggests that success and self-efficacy perception are two independent variables. In fact, multiple studies found that difficulty affects self-efficacy negatively. As educators, we want our students to succeed and also be confident in their abilities and skills. The issue of self-efficacy in particular uncovers the need for a way to measure project difficulty subjectively and identify when projects reach a level of difficulty that leads to a decline in perceived abilities. One objective approach to the assessment of difficulty of programming projects would be to use software complexity metrics, such as the number of lines of code, the number of classes, or even cyclomatic complexity as indicators of workload. The problem with this approach is that it ignores individual differences between students, including their abilities and background knowledge. Therefore, in the context of assessing project difficulty in introductory computer science projects, we utilize NASA Task Load Index as a subjective measure of workload. NASA TLX is a well-proven workload assessment tool that is reasonably easy to use and has been used in many applications over the past 35 years. NASA TLX gives us a unique understanding of how each student perceives programming projects, which in turn can help us identify struggling students and potentially provide us with hints towards suitable interventions. This subjective assessment is especially important in understanding the experience of underrepresented student groups in computer science courses. Therefore, the two central questions we try to address in this paper: 1, what insights can we gain from measuring perceived workload in introductory computer science projects? 2, what internal and external factors influence perceived workload in CS projects? We attempt to answer our questions based on data from a 2-experiment IRB-approved longitudinal study. Experiments were conducted in 2 institutions with 85 participants in total. The 2 experiments have small differences in design and focus. The first experiment focuses on examining student code in relation to their perceived workload. The second experiment focuses on issues of gender, race, ethnicity, lab experience, and project time requirements in combination with perceived workload. We make our data and code publicly available through a replication package that is linked in the paper. The first experiment, the number of volunteer participants was 39, from which 18 reported to be female and 21 were male. The participants were from 3 CS1 sections taught in Python by 2 professors in a single semester. All projects were identical across sections. In the second experiment, the participants were from 1 CS1 section taught in Python and 2 CS2 sections taught in Java. The courses were taught by 2 professors, and the CS1 section was visual media themed course from which 13 students participated in the study. 7 were female, 5 male, and 1 other. From the 2 CS2 sections, 33 students participated in the study, from which 15 were female and 18 were male. In the first experiment, the course is a typical problem-solving CS1 course with 11 projects that were weekly or bi-weekly in frequency, and the programming language was Python. In experiment 2, the CS1 course consisted of 9 weekly or bi-weekly visual media-themed projects, and the CS2 course consisted of 9 weekly or bi-weekly data structures and algorithms projects that were in Java. The central piece of both experiments was NASA TLX survey, which was submitted after each project. NASA TLX measures mental demand, physical demand, temporal demand, overall performance, effort, and frustration. And people are expected to report these values on a scale from 0 to 100 in increments of 5. And this is followed by a ranking task where they are asked to basically compare mental demand to physical demand and so on. In addition to NASA TLX, in experiment 1, we process the source code that each student wrote for that project, and we look for metrics such as the number of lines of code written by the student, the number of methods and functions, the number of code classes, the number of times the student committed or submitted their code to the code repository, and the number of code style error as reported by tools such as PyCode style. Source code metrics can help us understand the relationship between perceived workload and the actual workload as estimated by lines of code, functions, and classes. The amount of code a student has to write might be proportional to the perceived workload. At the same time, coding style errors might inform us of the relationship between good coding style and reduced workload. The second experiment does not include code metrics, but instead aims to connect NASA TLX results with gender, race, ethnicity, lab experience, and project time requirements during the semester. The goal here is to demonstrate how NASA TLX can be used to understand the experience of groups and individuals, especially underrepresented student groups. The race, ethnicity, and gender questions were short text answers, providing more freedom to the students to answer in any way that they want, and instead of selecting from radio buttons. The lab experience question asked students to report the percentage of the lab assignment that was completed during the lab. The hypothesis here is that completing the lab assignment during lab time would be associated with lower workload scores. The last question focused on the amount of time spent on the project in comparison to the time spent on other courses in the same week. The hypothesis here is that the time spent on completing a project in comparison to the time spent on other courses would be associated with higher workload perception. The procedure consisted of asking students to fill a 5-minute online version of NASA TLX within 24 hours of the due date of the project. Regular reminders were sent to students for each project. Incomplete surveys were removed from the study, and we collected 271 surveys from both experiments. Moving to the results, it is important to highlight that the first question is intended to demonstrate some of the insights that we can gain from using NASA TLX, and is not intended for generalizations. The results are specific to the sections from experiment 2. NASA TLX grants us a quantitative view of student-perceived project workload and its components. The figure below plots workload components for 9 programming projects. An educator could make a number of observations and possibly corrections when given a view of how students perceive programming projects in their course. It is easy to observe the peaks in mental demand in Projects 3 and Project 8. And similarly, we can see that the highest components are mental demand, temporal demand, and effort across all projects. We will discuss possible corrections in the discussion section. Yet, this view of project workload and difficulty could also be useful to future students who could be informed of an approaching demanding project. Another insight is that educators can gain a better understanding of how groups and individuals perceive project workload and its components, as seen in the table below. It is important to note that the table is an assessment of projects and it's not an assessment of student groups, especially that these results do not generalize and they pertain to a small sample from a specific class. This is more of an assessment of the resources and the support that we provide student groups. And in the context of the discussion in diversity and inclusion, we succeed when all groups experience a coherent project workload, and NASA TLX gives us a good way of measuring that. Moving to research question 2, we use multiple regression modeling to determine the significant metrics in predicting perceived workload in 3 CS1 sections from experiment 1. We focused on 3 sections that used Python, since that allows us to use simple automated code style checking tools such as PyCodeStyle and PyLint. The table on the right shows how multiple regression was able to explain only 21.5% of the variation in data, which is considered a low R-squared value. This result suggests that perceived workload is partially influenced by the actual workload as measured by lines of code, style error, number of commits, and number of methods and functions in classes. Yet perceived workload is not identical to actual workload. This finding highlights the importance of understanding perceived workload directly from each student, as their experienced workload appears to depend only partially on actual workload. In exploring which external factors might influence student perceived workload in programming projects, we asked participants in experiment 2 to report the percentage of the lab assignment that was completed during the lab time. The hypothesis here is that completing the lab assignment during lab time would be associated with lower workload scores. Our results show that 69% of students finished between 25 to 50% of the lab assignment in the lab. However, no statistical difference was found when we examined if lab assignment completion within lab influenced perceived workload. In our second exploration of external factors that might influence perceived workload, we examined the amount of time spent on projects in comparison to the time spent on other courses. The majority of students, 52%, answered significantly more than other courses, which is not surprising for CS courses. The figure on the right illustrates the relationship between the reported time requirement and NASA TLX scores. We used the linear mixed effect model to assess the effect of project time requirement on workload. and the linear mixed effect model found a strong correlation between time requirement and perceived workload. In summary, actual workload as measured in number of lines of code, methods, functions, and classes appears to influence perceived workload only partially. Exploring two external factors that might influence perceived workload, we found no evidence that finishing lab assignment during lab influences perceived workload. The second external factor we explored was project time requirement in comparison to other courses, and our results suggest a statistically significant trend towards higher workload when students spend more time on projects compared to other courses. This also suggests that possibly asking students about the time requirement of a project compared to other courses is a good substitute for NASA TLX when NASA TLX is not possible. At the same time, that single question does not provide us with workload components and insight that NASA TLX does. In conclusion, educators could use NASA TLX as a quick survey that is optionally submitted with every programming project to identify at-risk students, make correction to projects, and also to understand the experience of underrepresented students. Also, time requirement is an important factor in programming project workload perception. We want our students to spend time to learn programming languages. At the moment, we don't know of a better way to learn how to program than to spend a lot of time programming. At the same time, we should pay attention to how our students spend that time. Aviation training describes a concept called negative training, where pilots could acquire skills that can be unhelpful or even dangerous when applied in real life. It is important to ask if similar concept could exist in computer science, where an excessive duration of unstructured programming leads to a lower perception of self-efficacy. Moreover, the correlation between coding style errors and perceived workload highlight the value of teaching good coding style in introductory computer science courses. This leads us to our short list of suggestions to address difficulty in programming projects. In addition to teaching good coding style, which leads to better code comprehension, incorporating debugging strategies and bug type systematically in introductory courses could reduce the amount of time needed to complete these projects. Finally, programming skills such as test-driven development were shown to significantly reduce the time needed to write code. Similarly, pair programming was shown to require less time with teaching good coding style in introductory computer science courses. This leads us to our short list of suggestions to address difficulty in programming projects. In addition to teaching good coding style, which leads to better code comprehension, incorporating debugging strategies and bug type systematically in introductory courses could reduce the amount of time needed to complete these projects. Finally, programming skills such as test-driven development were shown to significantly reduce the time needed to write code. Similarly, pair programming was shown to require less time than a single programmer, and that could possibly add a social aspect to introductory computer science courses. It is possible that the incorporation of such skills in introductory courses would lead to a similar reduction in time requirement. Thanks for watching. Here are my references.
Yeah, so I think this video is a really great example, and that could show you how the NASA TLX could be used in like user research. So I'm gonna upload this to our purpose later. If you wanna, put it back later. And that's everything for today's lecture parts. And already released the take-home lab. This is a combined lab, so feel free to do it after the class. So I think you can get access to it now. And if you have any questions regarding the project 2 final exams or the combined lab, feel free to ask me. Like here, I'm gonna stay until like maybe 11:30. So, and if you prefer like asking me like questions privately, feel free to like direct message me. Yeah.
I have a question about like actually like implementing the NASA TLX. So first we would give the participant like ask the 6 questions and like make them rate
Exactly.
right? And then after, because you went a little bit fast on like so we make them rate and then what happens? We find the average or
I think you can use the worksheet to calculate the score. I mean, the results of that. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm not too sure what the result is exactly. So like can you just go over it like quickly again? So you make them rate from
Yeah, collect the data and obtain the individual rating, and also weighting the factors and calculating the weight scores, and do the sum of the weight scores and normalize the scores. And
so you find like the average score?
it is to like sum up the weight scores, across all 6 dimensions to obtain the total weight workload score, and then divide it by the sum of the weight factors.
Okay, so for example, you get like 6 scores. First, you would add them up to get the sum,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that like represents, I guess, the entire task, like on 6 different factors, like the entire kind of workload. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you divide this number by 6.
You need to like divide it by the sum of the weight factor. So there's a step that require the participant to rank the dimensions based on their perceived contribution, to the overall workload. Typically participants have to assign the weight factors from 1 to 5, to rank their, the perceived contribution, like, with 1 being like the least important and 5 being the most important. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
So
think
there's 2 things where sorry. Yes.
I think you don't need to do the calculation for that. This worksheet I think it can be like just output the score for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so for our project, we just need to make them rate the 6,
and then yeah,
but
and
don't
input
need to calculate, right?
yeah, you need to raise and then input those data uh on their worksheet, and then they could do the calculation for you. So you don't need to do that. It's beyond the scope of this program.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure about that. So it's kind of like a website and they just calculate for you,
I'm gonna
right?
upload later. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
Okay.
Excel
And
sheet.
okay, and I guess for the exam we don't need to like know how to calculate it.
I don't think you need to. Well, it is
Okay.
Mr. Rampton that designed the questions. I don't have the exam paper yet, but
Oh, okay. Then in that case, I think it's better I understand. So there's 2 things you're calculating. One is yeah, I'm a bit confused. What's the weight factor? So that's just ranking the 6 factors from like least important or whatever to most.
exactly, it's a like very like subjective, rating or something. Yeah, so it
Okay.
varies, among different participants. Yeah,
And
perceived contribution to the overall workload.
and that would be done in both 1-step and 2-step process, or it's only like 2-step?
I would say both, but as what I say, you can just use a 1-step process given its, convenience and reliability, right?
Okay. Sorry, I'm just a bit confused. So it's like, let's say you would rate, so each category would receive like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Is that how you rate it? Weight factors? Like 1 being, or I don't know, 6 being most important, and
The the weight scores ranges from 1 to 5. For example, some people may think that the 6 factors of that. Maybe temporal demands is the most important one, and that's greatly lead to the mental workload. Then the participant, you may give it a score like 5, and then give the physical demand a score of 4, and 3 for mental demands, and etc. Yeah.
okay, so 2 categories can have the same score. It's not necessarily like,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, okay,
really,
I get it.
subjective, so it's up to the participants.
Okay, and then so back to the sum, right? Like for the other score, like you add up the 6 and then you divide by the weight factor, like which,
Divided by
so
the sum of the weight factors.
okay, so okay, okay, I think I get it. And then that final number represents like the
The
general.
overall perceived workload. Yeah.
Okay, so like the first rating where individually you rate like the 6, that's like, I'm trying to find like the difference between the weight factor, like perceived contribution and the other thing. Like it's like the in perceived contribution, it would be like which
Well,
task you think is the
yeah.
like
So
which task you need the most for this a certain, not task, like
for
which,
the
yeah.
perceived contribution, weighting factors, there's some kind of like comparison, among those like 6 factors, right? And for the individual rating, it is just for the individual subscales, right? There's no comparison in terms
Okay, I see.
yeah.
Yeah. Quickly, one more question because it has to do with this. So why would anyone choose a 2-step if the first step is easier to implement and it's more reliable?
Sorry?
So you mentioned that the first step process is more reliable and more convenient, easier to implement. Then why would anyone choose the 2-step? It's like more complicated and less reliable.
Well, this conclusion derives from the previous like empirical studies, so that's their findings. And also for doing the 2-step process, you have to compare, each dimensions against every other dimensions. So which is really like complex and time consuming. So yeah. So people typically prefer, applying the 1-step process.
Okay, so for people who choose the 2-step, what are their reasons? They just want to get more insights, but it's also possible that it's less reliable.
Well, the reason for, for its less reliability is that it's really complex, and so what I mean, like you have to do like additional like 16 comparisons, which means that for example, if you have the same user doing the same task on different day, the result may be different because you have to measure a lot of different like factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the 1-step, you just need to to measure the 6 factors. So this is more like reliable, and
Yeah, okay, I understand that. It's just I'm wondering why would you choose the second one? But I guess it's just you would get more information and that could be
You
useful.
could, but you cannot, it's not guaranteed that the result could be like in a replicate or something, or could be like
Okay,
generalized. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
worries.
Professor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I want to clarify about like the 6 dimensions that we have just mentioned. So the 6 dimensions, like the value of the 6 dimensions, like a mental demand, a physical demand, and just like these metrics, is it rated by the people who are using?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Like,
it's rated by people who are using, and we get that data from surveying that person who's using the
you need to
application, or is it
fill questionnaire survey. Yeah.
questionnaire survey? Like it's more of like a, like it's kind of like a quantitative like survey, and we get those data and graph them. Wait, so
Mm-hmm.
okay, so the difference is the 6 dimensions is rated by the user, and
Yeah.
the factor is rated by ourselves, depending on how like the importance of each dimension.
It is rated by your user rather than yourself. You are the designers and researchers, and you want to investigate the user's perception of the workload. So it is for users rather than for yourself. Yeah.
And that's for the dimensions, and the wave factor is
Also
for
for
us.
user.
Wait, so the wave factor is also rated by the users.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, if it's also rated by the user, then sorry, I'm still confused by the difference. What's the difference between the two? Is because one is so one is the importance, right? And the other one is the metric, like depending on. Okay, I think I got it. Thank you. Okay. So
Sorry.
this like one is the importance and the other one is like the metric, like in terms of like how much, like let's say the first one, for example, how much mental model and perceptual activity was required, ranging from like 1 to 10. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, as for the exam format, I already told you like for multiple times. Is it like question answering, like maybe 10 questions and one from each lecture? So why do you think you are like disadvantaged or something? Did you attend the previous class?
Hello, sorry, can I speak to that point? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think what they're talking about is just like the combination of changes that have gone on in the course. It hasn't necessarily been the most sound learning timeline, I guess. Um,
Hmm?
Also, like I don't know if you've posted an outline, like a formal outline of what's supposed to be on the exam, but like generally that's expected from students more or less, and it would be really helpful for studying. So I understand that you've just listed what is going to be on the exam, but I think a formal outline would be very beneficial. Um,
So what
also,
by
also,
formal
just
outline?
another point more pertaining to a personal situation. I am waiting on emails responses from both the TA and yourself regarding Project One. So if you guys could check that out, that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I mean, I have a question about like regarding this too. Like, so I checked the PowerPoint for accessibility, and then there's like 70 something slides. And I remember we only went through the first two, like perceivability and like operability. So
Yeah,
after,
question answer.
like, I'm just
Outline,
making
like a
sure we're
formal.
not like we're only supposed to go until operability, right? Like
Exactly.
everything after that, we just ignore it. Like,
Ignore it.
okay, thank you.
So, Emna, what are you struggling with?
Also, because like I see that you remember we had one class where you said the other class didn't have a class, like it was typography. I'm
Yeah,
seeing that like the PowerPoint isn't posted. So are we being graded? Like, is that in the exam? Like that
I
chapter?
think the exam you will be basically centered around the reading material. Yeah, the slide is based on the material, so yeah.
No, I meant like typography. I'm pretty sure it's not posted. Like that's slide,
Really?
those slides. Like is that included in the exam?
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like wait,
Yeah.
sorry, yes?
Yes, yeah. I think
Wait, I'm just gonna
think like October
it's
15th,
like week October wait,
say
24th, I think.
24th. Possibility
It was on typography.
let me check. Blah, blah, blah. Assign- Yeah, because there's no class for the another section, so
So is that in the exam or not?
there will be in the exam. So yeah,
No, is that chapter in the exam?
yeah.
It is, but we don't have slides.
I think I've already uploaded the reading material. You can prepare for that based on the material. Yeah.
Okay. So the other class also, since they didn't have a lecture, they're just reading
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, they don't have class at, for that section, so they just do the reading stuff and finish the lab.
Okay. I mean, if you do have the slides, it'd be great if you can post them. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay, so you will post. Thank you. The other person can go ahead. I have other questions, but I'll let them.
Oh, okay. I sat in like the other sections last class when they were discussing the NASA TLX. So I was wondering if I could just go over like what they discuss to make sure that we're like if it's the same thing and if it applies. So when Ramton was explaining NASA TLX, he went through like how we're supposed to determine which factor is the most important by going through a like sort of like an optician approach where you go like one or two or three or four. So we go like, is it meant is he gives an example of like driving and texting, and he's like, is mental more important or physical? And then he's like, is mental more important or temporal? And he keeps doing that until we get to like one point. And we do that through like an Excel word like Excel sheet. And we calculate like how many times we choose one factor over the other. So like mental demand got like 5 points. So mental was the most important. And then after we determined that, we like calculate like the user's response from the questionnaire, and we look at like what they rated each factor for the task, and we add that up and then divide it by 6. So that was basically what happened. So I'm wondering if if that is exactly what we do, and whether the first component is individual or if it's also based on user input, because we did it ourselves, but that might be because we didn't have like an actual user. So
Exactly, but for this sort of method, all of the like factors should be like rated by the users. The researchers and designers should not involve this. You're the one that interpret the results, but it is the users that, that contribute to the data. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so we
I think
would,
the rationale for, Rampton's practice is just to expose you, like walk you through how to do that, but the task should be like completed by the users.
okay. So the first part would also be user. We would basically ask the user, is mental more important or physical? And then ask them, is physical
Exactly.
more important?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Always.
Yeah, I have other questions, but I don't know if like Alejandro wants to go first because I have a lot of questions. I don't want to like take all the time.
Thanks. Yeah, I just had like two kind of like follow-up questions. So is there not going to be a formal outline? Are we supposed to like just memorize everything that we're supposed to know? Like there's no outline to the structure that we can follow while we're studying?
So what sort of outlines are you expecting?
Just like a formal outline that tells us what's going to be on the exam, what we should know, just a general something to follow along with while we're studying so that we're not like you just listed all of the things that we need to know, which is great, but I don't understand how I'm supposed to like just memorize all of those things and then go to studying and know exactly what I'm supposed to look at because we're not supposed to memorize everything in the course modules, only certain things like we just said. So like if the slides are 70 pages long and we're only supposed to look at 20 of them, I feel like we should have an outline that's guiding us in our studying. I think that's fair. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Gonna talk to Rampton about that.
Okay. Given that the exam is on Saturday in less than a week, it would be very helpful to get that as soon as possible. No pressure, obviously, but that's I think that's pretty urgent for everyone in the course.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've been waiting over like the last month for a review on project one, like for submission from the TA and you. So if I could get back, like if I could get feedback from that, response from that, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Project one already posted, I think.
I didn't. I have nothing from that project. I've been emailing you guys like nonstop over the past couple of days. I have like no
Already post
feedback.
that. Please check your Quakers. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a question about the Wickens 13 principles. So there's the redundancy gain principle and principle of multiple resources. And I feel like they're quite similar because, and could you maybe, yeah, it's like chapter 1 or like early on. Could you maybe like explain that, like their difference? So from what I understand, redundancy gain is like you want to express the same message in different like ways, well, using different like, visual, audio, whatever. And then principle of multiple resources, I feel like it's similar. So could you like explain the differences?
Are you talking about your first class or something?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So send me the email after the studio. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you.
Oh, okay. So
this
can
section
I yeah.
previous, instructors, so I haven't looked at it yet. Yeah.
Okay, so all questions that is like
yeah, send me the
previous. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let someone else go first. I have other questions.
Yeah, Stanley.
I sort of kind of have like the same question as like about the final exam, about like the outline of like how it's gonna be look like on the final exam, because because the slides seems to be a little bit stacked up and some of them are not mentioned. But I feel like there's one more thing to mention is that I found a lot of topics from this course are have a lot of like overlapping definitions.
Exactly, that's normal in human-computer interactions.
Yeah, and human-computer interactions. So like when we think about human-computer interactions, we think about users, right? It's all about making users having a better experience, whether it's accessibility, whether it's typography, whether it's
Yeah,
about
exactly.
operations, right? So like these kinds of stuff, I feel like we need like a structured list of things, especially back in project one, when we're designing the app, we have to think about like all this list of things, and I'm assuming that's also going to be like on the exam. But I feel like I'm a little bit lost on this because while I'm taking notes, it's pretty hard to organize like and find a difference between like each definitions because some of the examples, like especially the labs that we're doing, um like I can sort of like make the same example for every single the definition, which to me is like like a serious flag because in that way I cannot tell the difference between the definitions. So like
So what sort of definition did you refer to?
so like let's say the ones not the previous lecture, but the lecture is like on the let's see. This lecture it's on November 28th. Sorry, it's on wait, it's not November 28th. It's the one that we have on the accessibility ones. So like I was really confused about the definitions between something that is operable and something that is accessible. So like operable is like you're like trying to operate something, and accessibility is trying to accommodate someone who have disabilities. But both actions are coming from users, right? And trying to take an action, trying to make an action on an application, whether or not that person has disability or not, or how you define disability, that definition is I found it like kind of ambiguous, and yeah.
Just don't overthink it.
And I found trouble like distinguish the difference between the two by simply looking at the slides definitions. Yeah.
So the definition, of those kind of terminology, this just give you an overall idea of, of what's going on, like the accessibility or something. But the most important part is the practice, is your design and how you like collect the data and interpret the data. So that's why this is a practicum-based course rather than the lecture-based course. So the most important part is the like practice. Yeah.
I have a question. So, okay, I want to ask like, okay, because you mentioned that you have not looked at the exam, right? So I wanted to ask like how should we prioritize like slides more or readings or videos? Like are readings and videos included in the exam content?
Are not included, but readings are definitely included.
So not videos, but readings.
Yeah. So I'm gonna talk to Remington, maybe hopefully today, and give you like what's going on.
Oh, I
So yeah,
don't think that was me.
and
Sorry.
send you the like overview or like outline for the final exam. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question for data visualization. There was a scale that compares the level of precision of different
Yeah.
I guess like position, whatever, all those. So it seems that the 1D, one-dimensional measures are more precise than like 2D and 3D. And I was wondering, is it because like humans can more easily evaluate like one-dimensional measures more than 2D and 3D? It's
I
like,
don't know whether you have to like using like AR or VR to like look into the 3D visualization. It's really difficult. I would say the whole experience sucks.
oh, so I
Yeah.
thought 2D and 3D means like it would still be on a paper. But for example, if they draw like a cube and another cube and you're supposed to like
Yeah, you
compare
can
them.
like on a flat surface, on papers, on my computer screens, like on a VR or AR screens. Yeah. But yeah, 2D is, 2D
Hmm.
format is definitely easier to interpret and understand than the 3D one. Yeah.
Okay. And also, so this is for the accessibility chapter, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand, like because there were slides and then they say like structured content separates semantics from presentation, unstructured content does not. So for content online, like on the internet, it's considered structured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like since it's structured, you can change the formats, you can go mobile, website, whatever.
All of the contents are like programmed by JavaScript and CSS and HTML, so it's like really like well structured.
Okay. So, and I just want to understand this sentence I mentioned. So, structured content separates semantics from presentation. Unstructured content does not. So, what does that actually mean?
Which sentence did you? I think you can send
Um,
the email and gonna ask you like, answer the questions for, for all of the details. Yeah.
so for this one as well, you want me to send an email?
Yeah. Send me the email.
Okay.
Can I also have the response of that email? Because I need to know it too.
What sort of email? I got more than
like
50
I mean,
email.
or I could write it because we had a shared Google Doc, right? So maybe I can just
You can put it
write it
in.
there and you can show it to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and obviously it would be great if you can do that soon since the exam is. But yes, thank you. And like from oh sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, okay. Professor, can you post the slides for today's really quick?
I'm gonna post it after
I need that for finishing the take-home labs for that were just posted at 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And just to make sure like everything because many slides, I think in accessibility they mention like coding stuff.
But
So
it's
all
beyond,
that we don't need to
you
just
don't,
ignore.
because we don't teach you like any sort of thing about like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, so it's beyond the scope of this.
Okay. And
Just just give you general ideas of what it is and how it was, implemented. Yeah.
okay. And I have just more questions about like obviously we should know the definitions of important concepts, but I was wondering if we need to know, I think in accessibility they mentioned like okay, I'm gonna go see. It's like the names of the organizations or something.
Yeah.
And then like do we need to know like those like specific names and stuff? Like I want to know what things we need to kind of memorize. Like it was like organization and then like guidelines.
Yeah, I think that's important to know that. Yeah, because yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna open the slides. So, okay, so the W3C World Wide Web Consortium, that's an organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it established the W3C Web Accessibility Initiative, WAI. That's like we consider them guidelines? Like it's what is it exactly, like WAI?
Yeah, it's an organization and it has some sort of a guideline which is important to know. Yeah.
Okay. And then within that WAI, there is WCAG, which are other guidelines, right? I'm trying to understand. Like, I feel like they have similar names and I'm a bit confused. Yes,
I don't
Larry?
think all these questions, are, I don't agree with you, and I don't think all these questions prove like how important an outline for an exam is. Some students just ask for some clarification of the definition. So yeah. Yeah. This is for another student's question.
Oh, okay.
And I don't agree that you use the term like unfair. I don't think it's unfair. Because I already repeat a lot of time during class, like what the format of the final exam will be, and if you don't attend the class and have no idea of that, this is your fault.
Sorry, sir, are you talking to me specifically, or like who are you talking to? Are you talking to everybody? Like,
I'm responding to your
okay, I never said unfair. I said fair. Those are two different things. Number one. Number two, the questions that everyone's asking is pertaining to what's going to be on the exam. So people don't know what's going to be on the exam. Like, we're not sure out of all of the class material what's going to be on the exam. That's why we're asking those questions now. If we had
it is unfair, and
I never said unfair. That's the thing. I said it
some
would.
students say that, but I don't say you say that, but I just say I don't agree with that term unfair because they repeat that over and over again. Yeah, but sure, I will send you the outline if you really want that.
It's not just me. I think everyone is like, I think everyone needs an outline.
I totally understand you want some clarification of the, the final exam formats and how to prepare for that. Yeah, that's fair, but
okay.
Yeah.
That's all I've been saying. That's all I've been saying. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just that if the other section, like if the professor lectures for like a longer time, for example, for 2 hours, then in some way we could be missing out on things.
Sorry?
But yeah, I don't know. Like I've never went to the other section, but I'm just
it is important to know that this is not a theory and lecture based course. This is a practicum, so we are consistent in terms of how long we're gonna cover the basic concept or something. It depends on the the specific day's topic, but yeah, we are consistent. And this sort of class is not gonna be a 2 hours or 3 hours lecture. This is gonna be a lecture-based class, and there will be no in class lab or something. Yeah. That's a major difference between the lecture-based class and the UX-based class. I've been TAing and teaching for all of the undergrad and graduate level, UX class, and all of them are basically wrong in this way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
I just
not a lecture-based class. Yeah, if you
yeah.
pursue a like maybe master's degree in a like user experience design exam, that will be similar. Yeah, so the most important part is the practice, like get your hand dirty and do some design, rather than memorizing this and that sort of concept and definition. Yeah.
Okay. And for cognitive walkthrough, so you mentioned there was the preparatory phase and analysis phase. So the prep phase is essentially on the slide, I think you wrote like who, what task, what is the correct action for each task. Like these things are the preparatory phase, right?
Let me check the slide.
Yeah, and I guess along with the outline, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
For the efficiency, you can just post or search for your question about the course materials, and then I'm gonna, in that Google Doc, and then ask that. So yeah.
Okay.
If student did not attend this class, they may, share similar questions. Yeah.
Okay, and it'd be great. Yeah, for sure. Also, since you're gonna talk to Ranton, I'm just offering a suggestion. It would be good if we could have maybe like one sample question. I think that's just gonna help. Like if seeing that sample question, I could maybe
that's fair.
like,
Yeah. Why not?
yeah. So, it's just I don't know which things to really remember and all that. But yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I have a question more about project 2. So
Yeah.
when we determine like the interview questions, like should we put that in the usability testing part, or wait, I'm gonna open
Which part are you talking about?
sorry, I'm just gonna look. Okay, so there's the step 3. And okay, so do I talk about the interview questions in the usability testing plan section or in the like number 5, conduct a semi-structured, like would that be considered inside the usability testing plan?
So which one, like semi-structure interview or something?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about like the organization of the
Not a
things.
semi-structure interview, blah, 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 blah.
So the usability testing plan would be like the list of tasks, I guess, like, and then should I also include like the interview questions in that section, or
Yeah,
I talk
sure.
about that
You have to. Yeah.
in the usability? So number 5 would just be like the findings of the interview.
I think you are supposed to like also list all of the interview questions for that part.
Yeah.
Which is yeah.
So I list it in the usability testing part or the like later. I don't know if you have it open. There's like number 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, 3 is for plan. It's gonna outline what you're gonna do, what you're gonna
Yeah.
measure. And for 5, conduct an interview. Yeah, 5 is just interview, conduct interview.
Okay,
Right.
so I list the questions in 3, like in the
Articulate your
usability.
questions and approach to conducting the interview.
Okay, so it's 3, right? Sorry, I just want to make sure. I put it in 3.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Professor, sorry to mention this again. Can you post the slides really quick? I really need it. Because what you have talked about about the 6 dimensions, I didn't get to keep all the definitions on my notes.
Oh,
Thank you.
wait a second. Any other questions?
So one last question, like about the recommendations. So I'm wondering how we organize it. Should it be like by page? Like for example, sign-in page, what are the recommendations, and another page? Like how should we organize?
It's up to you, but I would say make it clear and well structured.
Yeah, I think it's just because like we never really did it in class. So what do you think would be a good, like I just wanted to know like which way would be good. Like I was thinking of making it by page. Like do you think that would be?
Sorry, what are you
I
thinking
was
of?
thinking of listing the recommendations per like page. So do you think that would be?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Danish, any question? Like make it double space. For failure, we don't have a like specific
outline.
expectation of the form.
Formal
Specific,
outline.
yeah.
So we quote like the slides. I mean, put the slides in the references. Because I know we need to reference like outside
could.
sources.
Yeah, you could, but you need to mention that which slides are you're gonna refer to.
Okay, so we quote you and then we mention
Not
whichever
me.
slide.
Maybe that's just the
Or-
top slide.
Okay, I mean, unless it's like Wiccans, obviously we wouldn't quote you, but like
Mm,
if just like if there's not like a person related, then we quote you. And right? Sorry, so if there's not like a person related to the thing, like do we just quote you?
you can just quote the slide, not me.
Okay, so we leave the author blank. We just write.
That's
Okay.
fine. Let's go with that. So, Danish, do you have any question?
Bro, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, so I had 2 questions. The first question was I tried emailing you for the last couple of days. I was trying to ask you if I could use Headspace, the meditation app for the project 2.
For the project 2.
Yeah, because it says to
think
pick
you have
any.
Yeah, physical fitness app. Sure. Yeah, why not? So
Yeah.
what's the scope of the app?
It's like a
Fine.
meditation and like stress reliever type app. It's
Why-
like
yeah,
a
why
guided
not?
meditation.
Sure, you could.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the second question was for the exam, right? Do we have to memorize like any like the Hickens like 13 principles like Gastalt's like all that stuff, or is that going to be?
That's a good question. So I'm gonna send outlined, in the announcement, to clarify about us. Yeah.
So how would you kind of recommend going about studying for the exam?
I will say go over all of these slides and course materials and be familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like anything other than like practicing any type of questions or like, because I know you said it was short answer, right? So are they scenario based or like will they be like similar to Project 2 where we analyze an app or like what would it?
Good question. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Remington about this. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Charles Law. Any question?
Yes. I was wondering about the citation part because in the first project we were asked for the citation of the concept, right? And yeah, I was wondering if anybody asked this question before. So yeah, how can we actually need to cite those concepts like Gastard, like Wickham's,
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, how we actually need to do it, like how we need to cite those concepts.
Yeah, just cite the slide, I would say.
Oh, just a slice? Oh, okay.
Or if there's some kind of very specific principle, I would say maybe for example, the usability, the heuristic usability testing principle, you can cite the principle as well. Yeah, it depends. But if
Yeah.
there's not a very clear or specific terminology or principles, you can just cite a slide or something like.
I got it.
Example,
But how can I cite the principle? Because it doesn't come from any readings, right? Or it comes from the reading?
Principle, for example, for the heuristic, something like the principle, you can Google it and and extract the citation format and put it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and put it inside your reports. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Fine, that's fine.
So we should cite, like, for example, like I would mention multiple times like the principles. So can I just cite it like the first time or maybe, and not every time? It will be like very redundant.
Well, if you are, well, it depends. I would say it depends. Yeah. So, for example, you say that maybe you can say that, oh, we're gonna do this usability studies based on this sort of principle. Then you definitely need to cite that. Yeah, it depends.
Okay, so I guess the better thing to do is before evaluating, I say like I will be basing my analysis on these principles cite, and then after I don't need to cite.
Yeah.
Because it would be okay. Thank you. And one last thing, sorry, about the mental workload, like for project 2. So we just choose one task, right? And analyze that. It says identify a complex task.
Task, but it should be, sort of complex, not just click a button or something.
So you gave the example of breathing task while using a breathing task while doing a focused physical activity. Well, from the app I chose, when you're for example, it's measuring the heart rate, and the person isn't supposed to be doing any physical activity. Can I choose that one, or it's too simple?
It's up to you.
Oh, well, it's just I don't want to choose a task that's too simple and then I get marks deducted because I don't know.
Let's choose something that shows some sort of complexity.
So you think the heart rate would be too simple?
Heart rate, that's fine. Measuring heart rate. It also depends on the the user flow. So I cannot say whether it's simple or complex based on your phrases. Yeah, because I have
Okay.
no idea of the app you're gonna pick up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because my app, it's mostly about like measuring your heart rate.
It's
So
like a
Fine.
if I choose
meditation and
another
like stress
task, like
reliever
the
type
other
app.
tasks are not
It's
Why-
like
yeah,
a
why
guided
not?
exam, right? Do we install
Okay,
all
So
that?
in this case, it's
send
okay.
outlined,
Yeah.
in the announcement, to create,
Okay, thank you.
Going about studying for the exam.
And failure, yeah. Project to the we need to write it like in the lab. No, you need to write in an essay format. So because this is a UX report.
Wait, Professor, so you mentioned the project too should be in essay format?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that should be, that should include like, the clear subtitle of each section, for example, like proposed recommendations, and also like mental workload or something, other than just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is unprofessional and unacceptable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because I was thinking like maybe having bullet points for recommendations because it's like
could,
clear to
yeah.
see.
Yeah,
Because if
but
not, it would just yeah, sorry, go ahead.
why I mentioned that is that it doesn't work if you use bullet point for all of this your report, but you can use that for part of your like maybe subsection or something. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, so because for example, like in the independent interaction design analysis, like I go by page, so I would have a subtitle which page, and then I list the principles, and then under each principle I have like a short, well, I wouldn't say paragraph, like a short, like I don't know, 3, 4 lines of text kind of talking about that. So in that case, would that be okay? Because it's not like a continuous essay, since I do have to like explain everything according to principles, right? So to make it clear, I like put the subtitle like principle, which principle, and then under that I write like
You
know.
could, but the overall report should be like well structured, like overall title, like something like for example, the project you're gonna pick up and subsections.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm gonna make it not just like really quickly done, really. Yeah. But for recommendations, you prefer we actually like write an essay. Like it's like I
Up to you, yeah. It's up to you.
so if I do bullet points, I'm not gonna get well, I'm gonna make it like it's not gonna be like
You won't
like
deduct
bullet. Oh, sorry.
you won't deduct your score if you do the bullet points, under
Okay.
a specific
Yeah. Well, it'll be
subsection.
like paragraphs for sure. I won't just write like 2 words and then that's one word.
Yeah.
But okay. Okay.
So if there's no other questions, we're gonna end. So Iraj, do you have any question?
Sorry,
Any
no.
Yeah, so that's everything for today's class. Good luck at your final exam.